One decision. One railing. One moment where the ocean looks calm. That's all it took. Cruise ships sell escape. Buffets, sunsets, laughter echoing down endless corridors. But behind that illusion is steel, motion, and open water that does not forgive mistakes. These are the most shocking cruise ship deaths ever recorded. Incidents pieced together from CCTV, passenger footage, ship logs, and final digital traces. Moments that began like vacations and ended as evidence. Incident 1. The disappearance on Deck 4. It was early morning, just after sunrise in July of 2019, somewhere in the Caribbean Sea. The ship was moving at cruising speed, cutting through flat water that looked deceptively harmless. Most passengers were still asleep. A few early risers walked the outer decks, phones in hand, filming the horizon. But the man was traveling alone, middle-aged, no known medical emergency. Crew later said he had been seen the night before, calm, social, not visibly intoxicated. He had gone to the open deck for air. Security footage shows him entering the camera frame near the rail. He pauses, looks out, checks something on his phone. What he wanted in that moment was simple, quiet. Space, a break from the noise inside the ship. There was a warning sign nearby, small, easy to ignore. It cautioned passengers not to lean or climb on the railing while the vessel was underway. What he didn't realize was that the ship's motion creates constant vibration, tiny shifts underfoot that become dangerous near the edge. Footage shows him resting his forearms on the rail, then one foot slides back half an inch. That's when the sequence begins. First, as his body weight shifts forward. Second, he tries to correct, grabbing the top rail. Third, the ship subtly rolls. Fourth, his grip slips. Fifth, his center of gravity passes the point of recovery. There is no scream captured, just a blur as he disappears from frame. No one sees it happen in real time. Minutes pass, then hours. The ship continues on its course. It isn't until a family member reports him missing later that afternoon that the alarm is raised. A ship-wide announcement. Crew search stairwells, bars, cabins. When they review security footage, they find the moment. The official conclusion would later state overboard incident, presumed drowning. Search and rescue is initiated, but by then the ship has traveled miles. The ocean has erased the evidence afterward. Psy Cruise Lines quietly upgraded motion sensors and man-overboard detection systems, technology that already existed, but wasn't mandatory. The footage remains locked away. The moment lasts seconds. The consequences never end. But the next death wasn't quiet. It happened in front of witnesses, and it unfolded faster than anyone could react. Incident 2. The child and the window. It was July 7, 2019, in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The ship was docked. Families crowded the upper decks watching the harbor. Laughter echoed. Phones recorded everything. The child was 18 months old. Her grandfather lifted her toward what he believed was a closed window, one of the thick sealed glass panels lining the ship's promenade. He had done it before. What he wanted was a memory. A photo. The child tapping the glass, smiling at the view. But what he didn't realize was that this specific section was open air. There was no glass, no barrier, just empty space. Passenger video and surveillance footage reconstruct the moment from multiple angles. The child slips through his hands. There is no time to process what's happening. She falls several stories onto the concrete below. Screams follow instantly. Phones drop. Someone yells for help. Crew rush in. Security clears the area. Medical personnel arrive within minutes. But the injuries are catastrophic. The official cause of death is later ruled blunt force trauma from a fall. The grandfather is charged, then later released on bail, insisting he thought the window was closed. The cruise line faces intense scrutiny over design, signage, and safety protocols. Glass barriers are re-evaluated, warning decals are added. But none of that changes what happened in those seconds. The footage becomes evidence, then a reminder. On cruise ships, perception can be deadly. The next incident wasn't a fall, it was mechanical, and it happened where passengers believed they were safest. Incident 3. The engine room access error. This occurred in March of 2018, during a Mediterranean voyage. The man was a crew member, experienced, trained. He knew the ship better than most passengers ever would. He was assigned to maintenance near a restricted access area below deck, close to heavy machinery that never fully stops, even when a ship appears still. What he wanted was to finish his task quickly and return to his shift. Security logs show him badge into a service corridor. CCTV shows him passing warning signage indicating rotating equipment. What he didn't realize was that one system had been re-engaged earlier than scheduled. The escalation is brutal and fast. First, he enters the maintenance zone. Second, he steps onto a graded platform. Third, a machine engages unexpectedly. Fourth, clothing catches. Fifth, he is pulled off balance. Other crew hear the noise but don't understand it immediately. Emergency shutoff is activated within seconds, but the damage is done. Medical teams respond. The ship diverts course. The official report lists industrial accident due to machinery entanglement. Footage from internal cameras is reviewed by investigators, then sealed. Afterward, the cruise line updates lockout procedures and retraining protocols. Publicly, little is said. Passengers above deck continue their vacations, unaware of what happened below their feet. But not every death happens out of sight. Some are witnessed, some are filmed, and some happen because people underestimate height. Incident 4. The balcony fall. It was August of 2022, late at night, somewhere off the coast of Mexico. The man was in his 20s, traveling with friends. The ship's bars had just closed. Laughter spilled into the hallways. Phone footage later recovered shows him climbing onto the balcony railing of his cabin. What he wanted was a video, a daring clip. Proof of fearlessness. Friends laugh. Someone tells him to get down. What he didn't realize was how narrow the rail actually is and how strong the wind becomes at sea. The escalation unfolds in seconds. First, he stands on the rail. Second, the ship sways. Third, wind pushes from the side. Fourth, his foot slips. Fifth, his hands miss the grab. The camera tilts violently as the person filming realizes what's happening. Then he's gone. The phone keeps recording. Crew respond immediately once the fall is reported. Searchlights sweep the water. The ship slows. The Coast Guard is notified. The official determination is accidental fall overboard. Afterward, the video circulates briefly online before being removed. The cruise line reinforces balcony safety messaging. Alcohol policies are reviewed. But the clip never fully disappears, because it shows how confidence collapses at the edge. The next death wasn't about risk-taking. It was about exhaustion. And a moment alone. Incident 5. The late-night walk. It happened in February of 2016, somewhere deep in the Pacific Ocean. The ship was moving at full cruising speed. Most passengers were asleep. The exterior decks were quiet, lit only by dim safety lighting and the glow reflecting off black water. The woman was in her 40s. She had booked the trip as a reset, time away from routine, noise, and pressure. Ship records show she left her cabin shortly after midnight. CCTV footage captures her walking alone along an open exterior deck. She stops more than once. She leans on the railing, looks out into the darkness. The ocean at night offers no horizon, just a flat, moving void that tricks the eye into misjudging distance and depth. What she wanted in that moment is unclear. Investigators never confirmed distress or impairment. Officially, her mental state remains undetermined. What she didn't realize was how disorienting night conditions at sea can be. Without visual reference points, balance becomes unreliable. The ship's constant vibration subtly shifts weight underfoot. Footage shows her stepping closer to the rail, then closer. Then one foot slides. There is no jump, no sudden movement, no dramatic gesture. Just a brief loss of balance that becomes irreversible. She disappears from camera view. Her absence isn't noticed until morning. By then, the ship has traveled far beyond the location. Search efforts begin, but the window has already closed. The official ruling lists accidental drowning after falling overboard. Her final recorded image remains the last frame of CCTV. Afterward, renewed calls emerge for mandatory man-overboard detection systems, technology that exists but is still not universally required. Incident 6. The pool deck collapse. It was May of 2014, during daylight hours, docked at a busy European port. The pool deck was crowded. Music played over speakers. Crew members directed guests through a scheduled daytime event. Phones were out. The atmosphere was relaxed. The man stood near a glass barrier overlooking a lower deck. He wasn't behaving recklessly. He wasn't climbing. He wasn't leaning far out. He simply wanted a better view of the activity below. What he didn't realize was that the glass panel in front of him was not designed to bear body weight. It was a visual barrier, not a load-bearing structure. Witness footage captures the moment clearly. He leans back casually. The glass flexes. Then it shatters. There is no warning sound, no time to react. He falls multiple stories to the deck below. The crowd erupts instantly. Screams cut through the music. Phones drop. Crew rush in within seconds, and clearing the area and calling for emergency response. Medical teams arrive quickly, but the injuries are catastrophic. The official cause of death is ruled fall, resulting from structural failure of a barrier. Investigations follow. Engineers review design standards. Cruise ships across multiple fleets begin inspecting similar glass installations. The footage is later incorporated into safety briefings and crew training because it demonstrates a hard truth. On ships built to feel indestructible, even solid-looking structures can fail without warning. Incident 7. The Open Hatch. It happened in November of 2017 during a transatlantic voyage. The ship was steady. Weather was calm. Most passengers were enjoying indoor entertainment while crew members worked behind the scenes, preparing service areas for the next day. The man was a crew worker in his 30s, experienced, familiar with the ship's layout. He had been assigned to a late-night task involving equipment checks near a service corridor that connected to an exterior maintenance zone. What he wanted was to finish quickly and move on to the next assignment. Security logs show a maintenance hatch had been opened earlier for ventilation. It was supposed to be closed once work paused. What he didn't realize was that the lighting in that corridor had been reduced to emergency-level brightness. Depth perception was poor. The opening blended into the floor. CCTV footage shows him walking at a normal pace. He turns a corner, takes one step forward, and vanishes from frame. He falls through the open hatch into a lower service area several decks below. The impact is immediate and fatal. Other crew members hear the noise seconds later. Emergency response teams arrive within minutes, but there is nothing they can do. The official investigation lists the cause of death as accidental fall due to an unsecured maintenance opening. No foul play is suspected. Afterward, internal safety protocols are revised. Open hatches must now be physically barricaded and logged with redundant warnings. Lighting requirements are updated for all service corridors during overnight hours. Passengers are never informed of the incident. The ship continues its voyage as scheduled, but the footage remains. A reminder that on a cruise ship, danger isn't always at the edge. Sometimes it's hidden directly underfoot. Cruise ships are designed to feel like floating cities, controlled, safe, predictable. But the ocean doesn't care about design, or intent, or vacation plans. Every incident you've just heard shares one thing in common, a moment where danger wasn't obvious until it was too late. Railings feel solid, glass looks closed, machinery sounds routine, height feels manageable, until it isn't. If there's one lesson these recorded deaths leave behind, it's this. No clip, no view, no moment is worth a life. If you want to understand how small decisions turn into irreversible endings, watch the next video. Because the warning signs are always there, if you know how to see them.